Hi, everybody. This will be a recap of Act 5 for those of you who read the story but just want to have um, a run through of what Act 5 was about. And so I'll be running through some slides that kind of break everything down and maybe clear up any uh, questions you might have on Act 5. So prior to this, in Act 4, to prevent her marriage to Paris, Juliet has taken the friar's potion. And as Act 5 begins, she's in that temporary death like sleep, but she's not really dead, right? We all know that. But her whole plan is to convince everyone that she's dead, wake up, then run off to Mantua with Romeo. Her unsuspecting family plans her funeral. Meanwhile, the friar has sent a message to Mantua to tell Romeo of the ruse of the fake death, so that he may return and rescue Juliet from her family tomb. Okay. So obviously there's lots that can go wrong. This plan is lots of holes in it, and we'll see what they are, and everything will come to a head and a conclusion right here in Act 5. This is our final act of the play. Okay, I'm going to keep this as fast as possible so that you guys can move on to more important stuff like your work for the day. Okay, so Act 5, Scene 1. This is set in Mantua. It's on Wednesday morning. Okay, remember, Paris and Juliet were supposed to get married on Thursday. Lord Capulet pushed the day up, pushed the wedding up to have it. Once Juliet said, agreed to the marriage, he's like, all right, what are we waiting for? Let's get this done right away and let's do it on Thursday. So she takes this potion, wakes up, and we'll see what happens, okay? Romeo happily thinks of a dream he had of Juliet and believes that good news is on the way. Okay? In the dream, Juliet found him lying dead, but she kissed him and breathed new life into his body. Okay, so this is his dream. Romeo has not received a letter from Friar Lawrence. He was supposed to get this letter. Okay? And what happens, we'll find out in a few minutes why he doesn't get the letter. Okay, Balthazar, he's Romeo's servant. Okay, and he's going to bring this news of Juliet's death to Romeo. And he really thinks that she's dead because everyone does, because this trick is supposed to convince everyone that she's dead. So now, instead of Romeo supposedly getting this letter to explain to him what happened and what the plan is, Balthasar comes and tells Romeo that Juliet's dead. And Romeo wants to leave immediately for Verona and go back and see, you know, go down to the tomb and see Juliet's dead body, and we'll see what happens, okay? He asks Balthazar if there is a letter for him from Friar, but there is not, as far as Balthazar knows. And in this quote, he says, I dreamt my lady came and found me dead. This is his dream. Strange dream that gives me a dead man leave. To think, and breathe such life with kisses in my lips that I revive and was an emperor. So he dreams that Juliet kisses him and brings him back to life. Okay? Balthazar tries to convince Romeo to wait for more news, but Romeo, as impulsive as he is, remember that was one of your quiz questions from yesterday, he plans to go to Verona, kill himself because he thinks Juliet is dead, and lie forever in Capulet's tomb with Juliet. This is his plan now, right? Is it even so? Then I defy you, stars. Remember, star-crossed lovers? We're talking about fate. Today's lesson is about fate as well. So, what is the fate of Romeo? Were they doomed from the beginning? Was their fate to always um, to die together, and not live happily ever after? That's what they believe, at least. Okay. And is fate a real thing? These are questions we're going to be asking today. Okay. Romeo believes fate has been trying to keep him apart from Juliet. Therefore, he wants to defy the stars or go against his fate by being with her, even if they can only be together in death. Well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight, he says. Excuse me. Romeo decides he must buy some fast acting poison before leaving Mantua. So he goes to this creepy guy on the outskirts of town who's kind of a recluse and does not partake in society, but he's an apothecary. Okay, and he sells Romeo this poison against his will. He doesn't really want to do it, but he's poor and he sees it as an opportunity to make money. And he says, "Okay, I'll sell it to you, but even though it's against the law, but I'm doing it because I need the money, not because I want you to die, basically. Okay? And so he has this conversation with the apothecary. Romeo points out that the apothecary is already starving to death, so what's there to be afraid of? So Romeo pays him 40 gold coins. That's a lot of money. Okay. And then the apothecary says, "My poverty, but not my will consents," meaning I'm doing this because I'm poor, not because I choose to do this. Okay. Romeo says that the gold is a poison that kills men's souls, that money corrupts us. Money is actually worse than the poison. Okay. Romeo says that he is the one breaking the law by selling a deadly poison, by buying the deadly poison, giving the apothecary so much money. Romeo may want to assure the apothecary that he will not be in trouble. Romeo will not tell. Okay. Romeo equates the poison to cordial, a healing medicine which restores life. He sees his death as something joyous, not evil. Okay. So he's so in love with Juliet that he sees this as a joyous event. Okay. So that's scene one. Scene two is set back in Verona. Friar John was supposed to deliver Friar Lawrence's letter to Romeo. This whole plan would have been avoided if Friar John was able to send this letter out. But he didn't go to Mantua because he was quarantined due to the plague. Very much like we're all quarantined in our homes right now. Okay, so this is very um, connected to what we're experiencing at the moment. Okay. Friar John couldn't even give the letter to anyone else. So imagine it like having a letter, but it had coronavirus on it and you needed to send that out, but somebody was not letting you send it because you were quarantined because that letter might have been tainted. This is what happened. Okay. Oh, unhappy fortune. Okay. So it's kind of a comedy of errors. So many things are going wrong that it's like almost comical in a sense, even though it's not, because it ends in tragedy. Okay, so Friar Lawrence realizes that Juliet will wake in 3 hours, so he must go and free Juliet from the Capulet tomb. He sends Friar John to retrieve a crowbar to open the tomb. Friar Lawrence plans to send another letter to Romeo telling him that Juliet is alive, hiding in Friar Lawrence's room, and Romeo must come and get her. Poor living corpse, closed in a dead man's tomb. Basically, she's alive, but she is basically almost in a sense a corpse as well. Okay, she's living in a dead person's tomb. She's there with all the other previously dead Capulets, including Tybalt. Okay, scene three, set in Verona graveyard. Paris and a servant go to the graveyard. Remember, Paris and everyone else thinks she's dead. Paris wants to put flowers in the tomb, and he tells the servant to hide and watch for anyone coming. He wants to be alone with Juliet. The servant signals that someone is coming, and Paris hides and waits to see who comes. And who comes along? None other than Romeo and Balthazar. Um, they come to Capulet's tomb. Balthazar is threatened by Romeo to forget everything he sees and do not interrupt him. He basically tells him, "Go, leave, okay? I'm going into this tomb and I'm going to kill myself. You've not seen any of this. Don't tell anyone about this, okay?" Romeo gives him a suicide letter to give to his father the next day. Romeo tells Balthazar that he is going to open the tomb to retrieve a very important ring. Romeo warns Balthazar to leave him or he will kill him. Romeo says to him, "By heaven, I will tear thee joint by joint, and strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs. The time and my intents are savage wild." It's really, Shakespeare can get pretty dark and intense at times. Okay? So Balthazar, he doesn't believe Romeo's excuse for opening the tomb. He hides and watches. Paris sees Romeo enter the grave. Remember, Paris is hiding, watching all this happen, and open the Capulet's tomb. Paris thinks that Romeo is going there to desecrate the tomb, meaning like remember he's a Capulet and he's supposedly anti. He's a Montague. He's supposedly anti-Capulet, so he thinks he's there to do damage to the tomb. Okay, maybe they're the bodies. Paris tries to go and stop him. Okay, you can read that quote there. I'm gonna try to move forward in the interest of time. Romeo tells Paris he wants to be alone with Juliet and that he's a madman. He wants to kill himself. Paris should leave the graveyard and live. Paris refuses and fights Romeo, and Paris's servant, seeing them fighting and goes to find the guards. So he's going to alert more people to come, but they're not. It's going to take a while for them to get there. So it's just Paris and Romeo, and maybe Balthazar still there. I'm not sure. Okay, so they fight, and Romeo kills Paris. Yet another person dead. For maybe Romeo's to blame for most of these deaths if he just acted less impulsively, and it goes back to this whole idea of youth, right? And like he's he's reacting to things based on emotion. He's not thinking them through. So Paris, as he is dying, asks Romeo to lay him next to Juliet in the tomb, which I don't think he does. I think he leaves. I don't think he would. Right? He wants to be the one lying next to Juliet. So Romeo enters the Capulet tomb, notices Juliet still has color on her lips and cheeks, drinks the poison. Romeo dies. So Juliet has not yet woken up. There's still some time before she wakes up. And then Friar Lawrence comes in, but he arrives just too late. He wants to go intercept and tell Romeo not to take the potion. Balthazar tells Friar Lawrence that Paris and Romeo fought. Also, Balthazar is still there. Okay. And then Friar Lawrence enters the tomb and he finds Romeo and Paris dead. Okay. Juliet wakes up and sees Romeo dead next to her. Okay. And Friar Lawrence is there now, and he tries to convince Juliet to leave the tomb because the guards are coming. And then Friar Lawrence plans to hide Juliet in a convent, which is where the nuns live. Okay. Juliet wants nothing of that sort. She sees dead Romeo, and she too wants to die. Okay. So and then Friar Lawrence leaves and hides because he doesn't want to be he doesn't want it known that he's responsible. This was his plan, and it's gone horribly wrong. Okay? Juliet says, "Oh, comfortable friar, where is my lord? I do remember well where I should be. And there I am. Where is my Romeo?" Juliet stays with Romeo. She finds the vial of poison. She tries to drink the poison, but it's gone. And then she kisses Romeo's mouth, hoping to get some of that poison. And she can't get enough poison from there either. So she grabs his dagger and she stabs herself and she dies. The guards arrive at the Capulet tomb. They find 3 dead bodies. The chief guard sends another guard to find the prince and the families. The other guards find Balthazar and Friar Lawrence, and they are to be held until Prince Aeschylus arrives. Juliet's parents and the prince arrive. The prince wants to know what happened. Montague arrives and tells them that his wife died of grief because Romeo was exiled, banished from Verona. Yet another dead person, right? Friar Lawrence knows what happened. He also says he is both guilty and innocent for their deaths. Friar Lawrence tells the entire story of Romeo and Juliet's love and deaths. Then Balthazar fills in the remaining holes, which Friar Lawrence didn't really know, and he gives Romeo's letter to the prince, which is the suicide note, right? And the letter confirms everything that Friar Lawrence said. And Aeschylus tells both families that they're both responsible for their deaths. Their hate for each other caused this, and the prince also blames himself because he should have been. Remember, he said he was going to kill execute whoever broke the law for fighting in the streets of Verona, and he never followed through on his promise. Instead, he just banished Romeo to Mantua. And then finally, Lord Capulet and Lord Montague see what damage they caused, and they're distraught. Their families end their long-standing feud. So it does end in somewhat positive light because the families decide, this is ridiculous. We have to end this feud once and for all. Look how many people are dead. And Lord Montague will build a statue, and then Lord Capulet also will build a statue. Okay. And that's all. All right. That is how the story of Romeo and Juliet ends. I hope you guys enjoyed that run through. And um, yeah, we'll move on to the lesson if you haven't already. Thank you and good luck.